Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Cheryl Dekomamo. I'm from Seychelles Parks and Garden Authority. And today I'll be presenting the conservation efforts that we try to do towards the curious and botanical tortoise population. On curious, we have the wild tortoise population, and at the botanical gardens, we have the population of tortoises in captivity that we also try and monitor. Just to give a little bit of background of the Curious Marine National Park, it was designated in 1979 under the Parks and Nature Conservancy Act, and the island was chosen for many reasons. For example, it holds the second largest population of crocodiles. It holds is a habitat for shark pups. It has a nice vast coral reef bed. Is also home to a variety of seagrass that is also found there. But it was only in 1978, through a national campaign, that 250 giant Aldabra tortoises were introduced to Curious. So in the past years, the tortoises were monitored through various expeditions and also visiting scientists. In 1986, it was reported that the population on the island was declining, and it was predicted to be extinct by 1992. 4 years later, in 1990, a more detailed survey was done on the island, and a total of 117 individuals were found to be present on the island. 73 males and 38 females remain. And despite these activities, unfortunately, the documents were not properly stored or documented over the years. The tortoises were laying viable eggs since they were translocated to the island, but very few survived, and it was never fully investigated as of why. So recent monitoring that has been done towards the curious tortoise population, GVI, which stands for Global Vision International, started monitoring the tortoises back in 2008, and they stopped doing the census in 2019. And the largest that was recorded was a total of 148 individuals back in 2017. And the last one that was done in 2019, a total of 134 individuals were recorded. It is important to note that we realized that there was a drop in number of individuals of tortoises on the island, and there were a few assumptions as of why. For example, as we know, Curious is easily accessible island from the front and at the back, and it is quite close to Praslin, which is a inhabited island, and therefore poaching could be one of the reasons of why the tortoise population is not significantly increasing. Predation was another assumption that was made as of why the population was declining. For Curious, it's not a rat-free island, and therefore there is the possibility that rats could be predating on the nesting site as well as on the hatchlings. Another factor could be for the GVI methodology was to cover areas which is known to be favored by the giant tortoises, but as well as areas which is accessible. Despite the island not being as big, there are a few areas on the island which is hard to reach by foot, and therefore the team of volunteers usually focus on the areas where they know the tortoises like to inhabit, and this could be one of the reasons why maybe some tortoises were missing from past censuses due to not be able to reach them properly. In 2023, a census was done by SPGA, and it was done over 2 Saturdays with the assistance of volunteers from APSA Bank and MCB Bank. And these color-coded areas were the areas where we targeted for the census, and they were targeted based on food availability in the area as well as water source in the area. It is important to note that on the side, so on that side, there is a water source that is there. We did not target it for the census, but 2 weeks after the census, the research team visited that area and no tortoises were found in that location. So from that census, a total of 112 tortoises were recorded, with an additional of 4, but no morphological data was able to be taken from them, for they were inaccessible areas. Most of the tortoises were found at Bilare, with a total of 82 tortoises at Bilare alone. The ratio of male and female is about the same as past census, with 80 males and 30 females, with 2 unknowns. At Bilare alone, there were only 19 females opposed to 63 males. This is 2 maps just to show a little bit of the distribution of tortoises across the island over the years. So back in 1990, the tortoises were heavily distributed around the Bilari area, which is where the main settlement is, and also at the back of the island, which is on Spodamie. I can show with the pointer. There it is. Okay. So this is on Spodamie, and a huge amount of tortoises were found there in the Bilari area, the mangrove area. For the recent census, most of the tortoises were found in the Bilari area. None were found at Anse-Baudamier, and a small population has now moved to what we call Grand Anse, which previously back in 1990, none was found there. This is just to show a little bit. So from the census and from the information that we have, we are able to understand the distribution of tortoises on the island better, and this will help us to be able to create proper protocols. So in order for us to increase our conservation efforts towards to increasing the population on the island. A second step towards the census was to pit tag all the tortoises on the island with the assistance of Parco Natura Viva and Tortoise Alliance. And this will help us to better track them and identify them in the future, especially if poaching is one of the reasons of why they are being decreasing on the island. Ongoing monitoring that has started. We recently pit tagged all the juveniles in the nursery found on Curious. And through that, we also held a small training with the rangers on the island, whereby we could teach them on how to properly weigh and measure the tortoises for future monitoring, for them to be able to understand better the growth rate of tortoises found on Curious. As for the botanical gardens, we successfully recorded our first hatchlings back in December 2022, and 18 of them are now present at the botanical gardens. They are being monitored on a monthly basis. They are being weighed and measured every month, and they were all pit tagged with the assistance of Parco Natura as well. As for the adult pen, where we have the tortoises for the tourism attraction, a small survey or a small census was done in the adult pen, and 30 adults were counted in the main pen, with 9 in the smaller pen, which accounts for 39 in total. And from that small study, we found that there were 14 females and 17 males, with 2 unknowns. So from what we can conclude from all the studies that we have done is that there are limitations to the conservation efforts that SPGA has been trying to do towards conserving tortoises. But with the information that we now have, we can start to move forward in how to better increase our efforts. For example, now we know that we have to start identifying potential nesting sites on Curious to start and monitor the nest, and this will help us to ensure a higher success rate of hatchlings. And if there's a lower success from the monitoring, we'll be able to understand as of why that is. We also want to monitor the hatchlings that are found in the juvenile pen to the ones of botanical garden to have a how do you say that? To have a data to differentiate the different growth rates of both of the tortoises in both areas. We also wanted to study food availability per area, and this will help us to understand better the carrying capacity per area for tortoises. For now, we know that they can concentrate heavily in certain areas and none in others. We also want to understand the relationship between predators and tortoise distribution across the island. For as I mentioned before, we know that rats is a huge problem on the island. From the census that we carried out, we also understood the fact that there are areas that is pretty hard to reach on foot for a normal census. So this is why we want to incorporate drones for future censuses, whereby the bare areas on the island can be monitored through drones, where we as people cannot really access those areas. And we want to increase our efforts towards to make sure we can count maximum tortoises that are found on the island. So with that, I want to thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, I will gladly take them now. Thank you.